Welcome to the Gifts for Glory podcast, where we celebrate and promote men and women using their gifts for God's glory. Know someone who is making an impact for God's kingdom using their gifts, talents, and passions? We'd love to meet them. Send us an email at podcast@giftsforglory.com. That's podcast@gifts4glory.com. And now here is our host, Dave Ebert.
Hello, friends and neighbors. Welcome to the latest edition of the Gifts for Glory podcast, where we celebrate and promote men and women who use their gifts for God's glory. I'm your host, Dave Ebert, and we are wrapping up the Hope Through Laughter series as we open up 2021 after, in many respects, a disastrous 2020. I wanted to start this year off with a series about hope. And I interviewed some of the funniest people that I know, and this week is no exception. You're really going to be blessed by this comedian's story. He's a nationally known comedian. He's got a dry bar special. He's got his specials on 24 Flicks. He's also a regular on the Date Night comedy tour. Find him also on Thou Shalt Laugh 5. And he has performed on Last Comic Standing. So this guy's been all over the place. He's incredibly funny. And I'm talking about Joey I.L.O. He is our guest today. Before we get to our interview, let's jump into our devotions with Dave. I'm going to be reading Philippians 4, verses 4 through 9. This is coming out of the New King James Version, starting with verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. The things which you learned and received and heard from me and saw in me, these do, and the God of peace will be with you. Now, those are really powerful words, and they're really powerful if they're written by just somebody in an office thinking, like, this is what God wants you to say. But this is the book of Philippians. This was written by Paul while he's in prison. So in this passage, as Philippians goes through, in Philippians 4:4, he says, rejoice in the Lord always. He's not saying part of the time. He's not saying every Sunday between 11 and 12 or between 12 and 1 or wherever you go to worship. He's saying rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. This is a man writing a letter from prison. The Apostle Paul writing from prison saying, rejoice, have joy in the Lord always. He's not putting limitations on it. He's not putting exceptions to it. Always rejoice. Have that joy of the Lord in you. And then he continues in verse 6, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication. Now here we go with a very important statement. By prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. God is not a genie. You don't pray the right way, like you're rubbing the bottle to get the genie out. That's not who God is. Come to him with prayer and supplication and with thanksgiving. Be thankful for what he's already done and what he is doing and what he will do. Don't just make demands. Come with prayer and supplication and come with thanksgiving. And just make your request known to God, because number one, he already knows. He knows what you want, he knows what you need, and he knows where those things overlap. Not everything you want is everything you need. And not everything you need is what you want. But God knows where the two overlap, and he is going to provide those things. In verse 8, it's so powerful to me. And for those of you that know who I am, you know that I do improv comedy. And this verse is very key to a lot of what we do with our well-versed comedy team. Philippians 4:4. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. So that's kind of the filter we use with our comedy, because we want it to be pure. We want it to be of good report. We want it to leave people feeling uplifted. And I think that we can live our lives in the way we speak and the way we post on social media and the things that we retweet and share. All these things filter through Philippians 4:8 and see if the Holy Spirit doesn't reveal to you whether or not you should share these things. But I just want to say, verse 4, kicking it off with, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Rejoice always. I will say again, rejoice. We can have joy no matter who is in the White House, no matter who is in our state capitol, no matter who is in the mayor's house in our town. We can have joy because God is Lord of all. God is King. He is sitting on the throne and Jesus is at his right hand. Nothing is going to change that. Nothing is going to change that. So that's why we can have hope. That's why we can rejoice. That's why we can rejoice in the Lord always. And this is a man writing to us from prison. And he's rejoicing in prison. Because he knows that, number one, no matter what the Romans did to him, no matter what anybody did to him, the stonings, the attempts on his life, no matter what, he had joy because if they killed him, he was going to heaven. He's going to be with Jesus. If they didn't kill him, he just had an even better testimony to share Jesus even more. So that's how he had joy, and I hope that you have that joy. And it doesn't stop the second you walk out of your church walls. You go to church, you fellowship, you get refilled. I think it was Spurgeon who said that he needs refilling of the Holy Spirit quite often because he leaks. So we all leak. We need to go get refilled. We need to go get recharged. We need to go fellowship and be together. And then we need to go out and take the joy and rejoice always. Rejoice at work. Rejoice in traffic. Rejoice in line at the DMV. Rejoice at the hospital when somebody's suffering or somebody may be passing away. Rejoice that you know the Lord is there, the Lord is with you, the Lord has got you, that no matter what tragedies, no matter what good happens on this side of eternity, He is with you. He loves you. He thinks you are to die for because He already did. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. That is our Devotions with Dave segment, Philippians 4:4-9. So let's get to our interview. We're concluding the Hope Through Laughter series, trying to kick off 2021 on a positive note. And we've had a blast with our 4 comics, and a special treat next week as we kick off next month. It's going to be February, Black History Month. So we're going to bridge the gap between January and February. The Hope Through Laughter series may end in January, but we're going to come back and kick off February next week with Maurice Brown, incredibly funny comic, great story, great testimony, and you're really going to enjoy next week as we bridge the gap from Comedy Month to Black History Month. I think you're going to really be blessed by next month as well. But let me get to our interview. This man has been all over. He's been on Last Comic Standing, Thou Shalt Laugh 4. He's got his own specials. You can find it on 24 Flicks. And you can also find his Dry Bar special, which is incredibly funny. This guy is funny. He's got a great story. He's got a great heart. And I really enjoyed talking to him before and during the interview and after. So I hope that you'll be blessed. Here is Joey I.L.O. And that's exactly how it's spelled, I-L-O. Joey I.L.O. on the Gifts for Glory podcast, where we celebrate and promote men and women using their gifts for God's glory. So our guest today is Joey I.L.O. It's spelled I-L-O. He's a phenomenal comedian. He's got specials that you can find on Pure Flicks, 24 Flicks, and a Dry Bar comedy special called Work With What You Got. Be sure to look those specials up and enjoy with the entire family, which is not something you say about every comedian.
Give me a heart.
Yeah, give him a heart and also watch to the end and give him a tip.
Oh, that's even better. I wasn't even asking for that. All I was asking for was a free heart. Just give me a heart. Give me a heart. Show some love.
Give him a heart and give him some love as we bring on Joey I.L.O. We've got his links to his website in the show notes. And he's also part of our 2021 comic relief series here on the Gifts of Glory podcast. He's hilarious. He's multi-talented because not only does he tell jokes, he sings jokes. And we'll talk about all that here on the Gifts of Glory podcast. But Joey, thank you so much.
I only sing jokes when they're not working. I have to kick into the next gear.
So you are a comedian. You're an incredibly funny guy, but I know that this last year, 2020, has been challenging for all entertainers because the show's dried up. You even have a regular gig in Branson there that I'm sure it suffered as well because of lack of travel, lack of people coming out. So how has 2020 panned out for you? Has there been any good, or has it all been a struggle?
Well, I mean, the good news is I still do my show, but yeah, I do it on a much smaller scale in Branson. The thing is, I never put all my eggs in one basket. I've always had like this room over here. I did this show over here, or I traveled regionally and then I went nationally. And the cool thing is that I had built a really good relationship with Westgate Resorts. And so they were a real blessing to me and my family because I was able to get my wife a job there when she first came. When we first moved here, I was able to get my father-in-law a job there when he came from Ecuador, South America, and needed a job. And the staff over there is just amazing. And there's a guy who is the activities director who's also an entertainer. And, it's been really rare to get a job where the person who's hiring you is an entertainer like yourself and understands entertainment. And because one of the problems is corporate so by the book. And every time you try to go and be like, hey, I want to do something creative. Yeah, corporate says no. You keep running into the corporate wall. And it's just like they take all the fun out of everything. That's the reason why a lot of people hate their job. It's probably because it's super corporate. And I just was so blessed to meet people who think outside the box and go, hey, man, you can stay within the box, but you can make the box pretty. Creative people are different. It's kind of like a talented person versus a skilled person. Mm-hmm. A skilled person can be taught how to be rigid, but a creative and talented person will like if you taught me to mow the grass, okay, gotta go up and gotta go down. That's corporate. Corporate says go up and go down. Then if you give me the reins, I'm gonna be like, oh, and I'm gonna do my name. And they're like, don't do that. Corporate says no. And then you get fired. But you don't get fired when you have a boss that appreciates the creativity and realizes, wow, we can apply this to our tourists. And so when the problem was because I'm a subcontractor and because I haven't had a regular job for like 15 years because I have my own business and my own business is comedy and, being the subcontractor. And the only downside to that is you never have insurance and you never have, 401k. That's what a spouse is for. I mean, whatever one can't do, the other one should pick up the slack, and it's and that's what was so cool about what I did because, I was able to take my family on the road. Not all the time, but like I'd finish a tour and then I'd fly them to Florida. It was just so cool, But at the same time, so there's downsides to our job. I think everybody sees what we do and they're like, oh, it looks so fun. And that's when you're dealing with good comics or good performers is the people that can make it look easy.
Yeah.
Because when you can make it look easy, and that's the problem with the young generation right now is that they see us make it look easy. And instead of going, oh man, I appreciate that. Like that guy's talented. They go, I could do that. It's like when I was a little kid and I didn't want to watch the Ice Capades because my sisters loved the ice shows, and the Olympics and all that. And I'm like, I just want to watch cartoons. And they're watching these guys, doing the spins. And so I became a hater and I'm like, I could do a triple axel. And they're like, get out of here. And that's really what we got now. We got everybody seeing the comics that make it look easy. And instead of appreciating them and supporting them, it's like they end up trying to battle us like it's some kind of rap battle,
Right.
I'm gonna take you out, bro. It's like, but they got no skill because it takes years to develop some of these skills, you know. And I mean, of course, like when you first start, that's the thing. You're green. You don't know. You think you're funny. You don't realize a lot of it's been done already.
Right.
And so you're thinking, oh man, my friends think I'm amazing. And it's like, bro, that's been done like 5 million times. And it's not your fault. You just don't know what's come before you. That's why you have to become a student of it, and you have to put in the work. And it takes a lot of work to get good at it. It takes passion, and it takes repetition, and it takes studying the craft and sacrifice, you know, to be good at it. So.
Yeah. And you brought up a great point as a comic or as somebody that is doing something that they think is original. You got to be a student of the game to know who's done what before, because if you don't know and you out there like, hey, I'm hilarious, I've got this great bit, somebody that's been around is going to say, you're just ripping off this guy or you're ripping off this girl. And I know that sometimes that can't be helped because there's only so many themes that people can pick on, but you have to know who made that bit big so that you're not seen as a copycat or as a player.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up, because what I've learned and what's worked for me, and a lot of stuff has been done already. And, you know, and comedy is subjective. Like what one person thinks is funny, what next one might not be. But the fact of the matter is there's tons of comedians that have come before you. And so there's so many premises that have been done. And it's not so much what you do, it's how you do. It's how you put your signature on that piece, you know. And I've always been the type of kid that's weird and people make fun of me, and, you know, I move around too much. So anytime I hear someone be like, hey, stop moving around too much, I'm going to do it more.
Right.
Because that's me, you know. And my dad taught me, I was a songwriter. I started as a songwriter. My father had known nothing about music. But he used to say, okay, if you're going to write a song, because this is what he couldn't stand about music. He's like, if you're going to write a song, make sure it's catchy. Don't keep saying the same words over and over and over again. Because, you know, Christian music in the 80s when we were growing up in church was very repetition. I liked hymns better than I liked some of the contemporary stuff in the 80s, you know, because it was like, Jesus, 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 Jesus. And my dad's like, don't do that, you know.
Right.
He's like, write something that's catchy, because in the end, you know, even if you don't like the song, you won't be able to remember it. So something that can stick in people's heads, something that's catchy. And so I would always hum out a melody, and then I would write my music, my words over the top of that. And I would always focus on the melody being catchy, because it's one of those things where when people think of music, they hum. Yeah. Even if they don't know the words, they just keep on that melody. And so anytime I wrote a song, I always started with the melody. And I don't even play piano. I don't play drums. I would just hum and create a melody that stuck in my head. And then I would add the words. And I never wrote the words down. I always memorized the words. And then I put them to that melody. So I started rapping at a young age. So for instance, at 13 years old, I wrote this, and it was the melody I had was, and I wanted to write to that. So listen how the words match up. It's hard to be your Christian. Walk it, talk it, live it, breathe it, lead it, do what you do, and really mean to have faith in God when you can't even see your friends are turning their back on you. They laugh at you, get mad at you, because you ain't who you used to be. Change to rearrange your life ever since the day you hooked up with the Christ and been the same, determined to stay. Heaven since all of your sins are now passed away, made anew. Only if you can enter into the promised land will you be the man, the woman of God He's called you to be. And if you ought and get on your feet and come along and take a walk with me, all my soldiers in the house. So where you at? Oh!
Nice.
So for me, this right here, next time I go to snap, that space in between that is called the bar. And rappers rap in bars. And the misconception is that rap, every word has to rhyme, and that's not true.
No.
The last word you say either needs to extend the sentence so that you can come down on the bar. So you have all this space, and you write words in between that until you get to here. And the law of this makes you have to respect it, because if you don't respect it, then you're off beat and you get behind the deal. Now you can, when you control when you control your rhythm, you can do anything you want until you get to that. And so when I got into comedy, I that was how I taught myself how to write comedy. I was like, setup, punchline, setup. But it didn't have to be so setup, punchline. It's just once I got the mechanics, everything became a punchline for me. You know, like physicality, the way I delivered. So I started putting my own swag, my own personality into my performance. And that's what separated me from the other ones, because nobody was doing that. You know, I didn't want to be a musical comic per se. I just wanted to take, you know, I started writing raps when I was 11 years old. So I'd already mastered that writing. Comedy writing was different. And I had to study it to learn how I could kind of transfer credits and figure out how to, I still could write a rap or a song so much easier than I could write a joke. But the longer I've done it and the mechanics I figured out, it's become a lot easier now.
One of your big breaks was Last Comic Standing. How long had you been doing comedy before you got into that? And how did you get involved with Last Comic Standing?
Well, that's the amazing thing. I mean, that was in my first few years of comedy. So that was I had only been doing comedy probably 4 years. So probably even less than that. Well, I started in 2004, and I would have been on Last Comic Standing in 2007. So 5, 6, 7, only 3 years. And to make it all the way to the semis. But again, it's the musical training. Mm-hmm. It's the rapping that I started doing. See, I put out albums when I was like a teenager. I funded my own albums, got people to believe in me. And I put out my first a rap tape. It was a tape. That's how long ago my first album was. It wasn't a CD. It wasn't a DVD. It was a tape, okay? And that was called Collective Thoughts. And I think it was only like 15, 16 years old. Wrote all the songs on it. I think I wrote 11 songs. My nephew, this is so funny. He loved my rap tape so much that he was riding his bike and he had headphones on, like a Walkman. He had the tape in a Walkman. He's just a little boy, and a car comes flying through an alley. It hits him while he's listening. He smashes the guy's windshield, rolls off. The guy jumps out and goes, "Oh, are you okay?" And my little nephew jumps to his feet and goes, "Oh no, my tape, I think you broke it."
Oh no.
That's a true story. And I won't say I saved his life, but I took the thought off of the pain, because and he didn't end up in the hospital or anything. And so the rap, he was just so concentrated on listening to his uncle's raps that it took his mind off getting hit by a car. And that's my family's way. Walk it off, you know. I got hit by a car. I was on tour with Akintunde. We had a show, and I had some sore throat. I needed to go to like a CVS or a Walgreens. So we're staying at the hotel, and Akintunde is like, "Well, you better get back here. The bus is going to leave, and you need to be on it." I'm like, "Okay, I'm just going to walk down there and get my stuff." He's go. I go. I'm in Alabama, and some car just comes down and doesn't see me walking, and I just jump up and land up and roll onto their windshield and roll off. Mm. And they just take off. They never come back. It was a hit and run. And it hurt my leg, but I was like, okay, I think I'm good. So then I walked all the way back, and he's like, "Why'd you take so long?" I'm like, "I just got hit by a car." And he goes, "You want to go to the hospital?" I'm like, "No, we got a show tonight. Let's go." We did the show. And so, yeah, man, walk it off. If my nephew can do it, I can do it, you know? So, yeah.
So. Do you have any of those old rap tapes? Any of those?
I do. Well, I have the past and the presentation. I don't have it listed out. There's some old videos you can see. That was just my talent. I had a speech impediment when I was young. I used to stutter all the time. And so rapping allowed me to gather my thoughts and put them to rhythm. And so rhythm is and here's the crazy thing is I play by ear. Like, I don't know how to read music, but I would hum to my sister played piano, and she knew all the chords. So I was like an uneducated, musician. I just have a really good ear. And so I'd ask her, "What's this note? What's this note in?" I still don't know, but "What's this note in?" And she would hit it on the piano. And then I would hum, the melody to her of what I felt that I wrote. And then it would come together. And I have 5 songs on the ABC Youth Choir, and that's a choir album. And I wrote 5 of those songs on there. And I did all the parts, you know. It was amazing. It was amazing because the people who knew what they were doing could see the talent in me, and they would just, okay, this is what you want to do. And when they finally played it, it was exactly the way I told it to them and showed them. So it's crazy. I used to get kicked out of school because I had a jazz music teacher, and because I couldn't read, he didn't like that. He was like, get out of my class. And he's like, you'll never be anything, and blah, blah, blah. So I've been told my whole life, like, you'll never do this, you'll never do that. And I just started to, it became that all the people telling me I never do anything, what were they doing? You know, in the end, they weren't doing what they were doing. So I just kept doing what I've been doing. Right. And you finally got with people who appreciated it. And I think that that's what you have to do sometimes, is push through the haters and love what you do and have a passion for what you do and believe. You know, that's why my faith is so important, because you have, in order to have faith, you have to believe. So if you don't believe in anything, you know, you won't stand, you know, you'll fall for anything. So you'll get distracted. And that's kind of, so it's funny, they said I had ADD, but yet to me, I have a deep focus. It's just that, you know, like my daughter has high functioning autism, and I've learned so much from her because people think she's not listening. And I got to see a brain scan of hers, and it's just so colorful and beautiful. And when you see that, you realize there's so much going on up there that the natural eye can't see. And who's to say that she's not hearing what we're saying? She is. She's just processing it differently. And if you can bring that out of her, you can bring an amazing gift. You can bring an amazing talent. And that's what I love about a lot of people who get wrote off. Because there are people that see the beauty. You know, in order to find a diamond or gold, sometimes you got to polish it off. And you're never going to do that by just staring at the outer layer. And I think there's so many people that just discount people, and what would happen if you believed in that person. Right. and seen the flaws, but also seen the good. And I believe in good in people. I believe in encouraging people so that they can step out. And I believe in forgiveness, and I believe people can change too. Even myself. I mean, I've changed a lot, and that's why I've been able to pull this diet off, because I said, you know what? I'm not going to believe that I'm just not going to give into this anymore. I'm not going to feel this pain in my back, and I'm not going to eat this junk. I want to live longer. And so you make up your mind and you say, I'm going to go forward, you know?
Yeah.
I can't change what I've done, but I can change where I'm going.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's how Jesus works. The 12 he had follow him weren't exactly the cream of the crop. I mean, if he was wanting the best of the best, he would have had Nicodemus as his disciple and the Pharisees that were in charge as his disciples. Instead, he went and he picked the people that had been written off. Matthew was written off because he was a tax collector. The fishermen were written off because they're uneducated fishermen. But Jesus saw the good in them and said, hey, follow me. And he made them bigger than any other person of their day.
Yeah, and I had a stroke when I was 21, and I had to learn to walk again and talk again. I was very sick. I was sick all the way from 21 into my 30s. And I remember when I started getting into stand-up, and other comics, they would get jealous of me. And I'm like, what are you jealous of me for? Right. I could hardly even walk at times, you know, and it was just like, I was just happy to be alive. You know, it was a lot to overcome. And you know, it is hard in entertainment because you do have to put on a face, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think when my dad died, that was really hard because I had now achieved a notoriety and I was doing all these big stages, but I was dying inside, you know, because I lost, it was just that I was a young man about to be a father. I think when you lose your father, it's like, well, how, you know, can I be a good father? You know, can I be a good husband? And there was times I wasn't, and I would beat myself up for that. And you have crossroads you have to make. You know, well, I can continue to be the worst husband ever, or I could change and try to be a good one. You know? Right. But the sad thing is, you know, your life choices leave scars that can never be healed. You know, right. But that doesn't mean you can't be forgiven. You know, and sometimes you have to forgive yourself, and sometimes you have to give that to God so He can forgive you. You know, He can move things out of the way too. You know, there's a lot of people that mean harm for you, but He can protect you from that. You know. Yeah. It doesn't mean you should do stuff just so you can say, oh, I'm sorry. You know, a real heart change has to happen. A lifestyle change has to happen, you know. So I think I'm kind of going through that right now. I look around and I see what's important, and I feel horrible, for, just, as you get older, you realize, man, what's really important in life. Family is so important, and some of this stuff just doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the people who want to hold on to that stuff will threaten you. Why don't you go back to your nothing? And I'm like, okay. Because, it's so funny. I've met some of the poorest people, and they're the happiest people because they're not a slave to the things that they own,
Right. Exactly. So we've talked a little bit about faith now. Let's go back and find a little bit about your journey. As much as you're comfortable sharing, how did you find Jesus for yourself? How did you accept him as your Savior?
Well, I was a young boy. I was 5 years old, and my father, my mom and my father, they led me to Christ in the sense that they'd allow me to go down and pray at the altar. And, we don't see that a lot anymore. It's kind of like, even in church services, it's like, okay, everybody wrap it up. We're going to Crackle Barrel,
Yeah.
And I just grew up where I don't know what drew me at 5 years old to come down to the altar. I don't know if it was because I was coloring outside the lines of some kind of conviction, but I remember going down that night, and I remember just praying. And I remember that there was ice cream social going on downstairs, and my 5-year-old mind was like, I got to go to get some ice cream. But I just lingered with God's presence, and I gave my life to Christ that night. And I remember all the lights started to shut off, and my father was the deacon of the church, and he had to lock up. And my dad was the type of dad is like, get in the car. We got, why aren't you in the car?
Yeah.
And he didn't do that this night. He sat on the bench behind me, and at about 2 a.m, I rubbed my eyes and said, I think I'm done praying, Dad. And he goes, you never have to apologize for spending time with God. And I think the fact that I had parents that allow me to do that and showed me that, even that I might have turned away as I gotten older, or maybe I didn't trust God like I should. You just never forget that. You never forget that real encounter, no matter how old you are. It's like, wow. And that's what's so hard about telling non-believers, because if they've never had that relationship, how are you supposed to know? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can introduce you to someone. It's like introducing you to a person, and they're like, doesn't look like a nice guy. Like, what have you ever met? And that's just the way humans are. We've been hurt. We don't want to trust. And so for us to have to give our lives to something, that's a lot to ask. So, sometimes Christians scare people because it's like, you need to give your life to God. They're like, you need to get away from me before I call the police. So that's, to me, what the war is. But when you have a genuine relationship, you don't have to go around and be like, you need to do this. You just be like, hey, I'm telling you, it's kind of like results, That's what I believe when it says shine your light. That's what that means. It doesn't mean go around and hit people over the head with a book. It means if this thing is real, then let that be real. Because that's what people want, is being genuine. It's not saying I am perfect and I'm better. It's just saying, when it comes to trusting, that I'm not going to trust in just myself. And I can admit when I'm wrong, because that repentance is a big part of our faith. It's everything, If you don't repent, then you can't move forward, And I've had a hard time with repentance because it's a flesh thing. I don't want to let go of that stuff, It's the hardest. I think that's the hardest part about being a Christian, is repentance. It is. Maybe not for everybody, but for some people it is, And
that's why when everyone I see, especially like during the election season, people are quoting 2 Chronicles 7:14, and they're talking about the healing of the, pray to heal our land. You're missing the first part. We got to repent and humble ourselves and seek the face of God. Then we can ask for that promise to be fulfilled. Right.
And that's when, it's funny because during all the racial disparity and all the things that were going on, I heard the left attack the right when the right would say stuff like, I don't see color. And the left would say, what do you mean you don't see color? It's impossible for you not to see color. And they're actually right in that. But when you have a true relationship with God, meaning that He's really healed you from those sides,
right.
It's not the first thing that you see. The first thing you see is not color. The first thing you see is the heart. because God looks on the heart. He doesn't look on the outside. And it's what I was talking about. That's the reason why people get hurt, because people judge you instead of knowing you. And so when you can look on the heart of a person and you can give them a chance and go, man, this person's beautiful, and you want the best, that person could even turn from their evil ways because they realize that they're empty and they need that. We all struggle. You put on a face, and that's why entertainment is tough, because we're acting a lot. Mm-hmm. We're in our character, and it's not easy. So, I mean, for me personally, another thing too is I'm a comedian. I'm not a pastor. Never wanted to be a pastor. I've never been a pastor. I just am somebody who have put faith, to my life, and it's saved my life at times. It's almost made me lose my life at times, but I'm still here. And when I think of the fact that I'm still alive, wow, that is amazing. So it's just like, you start to see miracles in your life, and you're just like, oh, that's not just a coincidence,
More of the Gifts for Glory podcast in just a moment. Our host, Dave Ebert, is now accepting bookings for your next event. Dave specializes in improv coaching to improve self-esteem, team camaraderie, communication, creativity, and developing your own unique voice. Improv is an amazing tool to learn how to listen actively, respond appropriately, and communicate more efficiently, all while having an absolute blast. For churches and ministries, ask about our Improv Your Witness workshop, designed to get you out of your own way when sharing the gospel and your testimony. For information, contact booking@giftsforglory.com. Booking@gifts4glory.com. Booking@giftsforglory.com. We'll be back with more of this amazing conversation next on the Gifts for Glory podcast, where we celebrate and promote men and women using their gifts for God's glory.
The coolest thing we had when I was a kid growing up was Solo Sunday. That's when we let the mothers of the church sing their own church specials. I used to love that. They had that natural vibrato in their voice. Made it sound like they're trying to start up them old-time cars in the morning. They would rock the hymn, just cry out. I think she's flooded. I mean, I can relate to the people who came for free, because that was my family. We didn't go anywhere unless it was free. Because I didn't come from a poor family. My family was on a budget, praise the Lord. That's almost worse than being poor. Because your family has money, they just don't want to spend anything on you.
But I'm still here. And when I think of the fact that I'm still alive, wow, that is amazing. So it's just like, you start to see miracles in your life, and you're just like, no, that's not just a coincidence,
Right. Exactly. One of the miracles you touched on a little bit earlier, and I heard you share a little bit about it when you were on Maurice Brown's show earlier in the fall. You talked about the stroke at 21 and being sick and battling with your health issues for a long time. How did that come about, and how much did faith play in carrying you through all that?
Well, it was a huge part, because of the fact that, I remember hearing someone say, why do Christians become so spiritual when they come close to death? And the answer to that question was through my experience. I mean, I was literally paralyzed. And the reality was, the reason why I became spiritual is because I wasn't in control anymore. So everything that's like a fleshly thing, you can't apply. You can't apply stuff like, hey, just believe in yourself. When you're paralyzed, you're like, come on, self, let's walk again. And yourself is like, yeah, you go. I'm staying here. And so you need something that's bigger than yourself. That's what I mean by putting your faith and trust. Say, there is death and there is life. We all do die. But when you choose life, it's amazing how you can live. That's why this COVID thing, and that's why, it's like I already went through my COVID in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
If I could overcome that, I can overcome this. And if I can't overcome this, then I guess that's my time. Because, why be scared of death when we're all going to do it anyways? So you're going to be scared of death and not accomplish anything in life? That doesn't make any sense. And so being in fear all the time doesn't allow you to overcome anything. You can't move forward, you're moving backwards, or you're not moving at all. And what's funny is that when someone gets shot, people say all the time, like, hey, stay with me. Keep your eyes open. What are they telling that person? They're saying, keep moving. Stay with me. Because they know the minute that person goes to sleep, they ain't going to wake up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yes, God can move mountains. Yes, God can open doors, but he also requires you to be a soldier too, and have faith and go forward and push through your fears, because that's how it will encourage your walk too. You'll be like, man, and I realize, like, man, we've accomplished so much, like we've come so far, but we still got far to go, and it's like, but when you come up on this COVID thing, and I already went through it at the age of 21, I'm just like, that's why I meet like veterans, from like Vietnam, because I work in Branson. So Veterans Day is a huge thing, and they're not phased. I got guys that, I remember when we first moved here, I met a lady, 107 years old. This is like 2012. She was a teenage nurse in World War I.
Wow.
Could you, she's not alive anymore, but could you imagine, you trying to tell her about the pandemic, and she was in World War I as a nurse during the World War I and the pandemic?
Yeah.
Told me stories that they would just put people on stretchers. There's no air conditioning. There's no heater, and they just would die. There was no hope. But she goes, there would be people in the middle of the field with no medicine, and they would survive that.
Mm.
And now we got COVID going on. People are just, you're like, oh no, it's a 99%, survival rate. So it's really hard when you meet a veteran and you're like, oh, aren't you scared about this COVID? I got shot 5 times in Vietnam, and I walked home, and I'm like, how am I,
Yeah.
That guy doesn't care about others. Like,
he took 5 bullets for others. I think he cares.
He fought for your freedom. Like, what are you talking about? So it's just, people, you can't judge people's experience, and, it's funny, man. It's just so funny. Well, I'm so glad it didn't rain like it did for you, and the guy has no arm.
You've got such an awesome story, man. There's so many points where it would have been easy just to give up. Yeah. But the fact that you survived the stroke, you survived everything that you wrestled with afterwards, and the fact that just seeing you on the video, you clearly have the joy of Christ in you, and that's what makes you, that probably is the biggest key to you being as funny as you are when you take the stage, is you're overflowing in joy. And I think it's really a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and not always.
Right.
I'm human,
Exactly.
Some nights I'm like, I can't stand these people. But that's the human side of us.
Yes.
It's the human side of us. And that's the thing we war against every day. And it says that in the Bible. You have to war against your flesh. You have to beat it down so it doesn't beat you down. When it becomes more than you, when you let it be in control, then you see the demon that could be in you.
Yes, absolutely.
And believe me, I have a lot of them. So I used to say that in my testimony, like, man, I used to say, you should be happy I'm a Christian. I could be out here stabbing.
You should be happy I'm a Christian, because I used to be able to kill, and not with a microphone.
Right, exactly. Well, there's another Joey I.L.O that looks like me, and he was the mobster in the 1920s. So,
I remember.
Wikipedia really says that. Joey I.L.O mastermind, several unsuccessful attempts, and my friends find out I'm a Christian. They're like, what do you want? One of those goody two shoes? You should be happy. I could be out here whacking people unsuccessfully.
That's awesome. Well, Joey, there are 2 segments left of the Gifts for Glory podcast that I guess I have to put you through. The first one I call the interrogation, which is 7 random questions that, and given your mobster connection, you probably are already used to. And then I'll ask you for your wise counsel for anybody that wants to use their gifts for God's glory. So the first part, the interrogation, 7 quick questions that whatever comes to mind, there are no wrong answers. First question, deep dish, thin crust, or pan crust, and what's your topping?
I plead the fifth.
Okay.
Just kidding. Well, right now with being on the keto diet, that is something that I just fell in love with. They got this thing called a cauliflower crust. It's unbelievable. So I can have pizza. I mean, I'm a huge pizza fan. I would say before my diet, being in Chicago, growing up close to that area, personally, the way we did it was thin crust. We call it a junk pizza, and extra cheese, pepperoni, sauces, mushrooms, onions, and it's basically a supreme without green peppers. I can't stand green peppers, but I'm talking about, and I like them in squares. I don't like slices. I'm a square guy. Yeah. And as a kid, and I've grown. I mean, I like slices now, but when I was a kid, that's only because they don't have good pizza where I live. When I was a kid, we get the party pizza, and I would never do the crust on the outside. I'd wait for everybody to take those pieces off, and then I'm just middle, gorgeous, middle, unbelievable, middle pieces, extra cheese. You're just doing this number,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, number 2, favorite movie of all time.
Favorite movie of all time? Goodfellas, for sure. I'm sorry. Christian movie? Goodfellas. No, I'm just kidding. I have a lot of them. I like that one. Christmas, I love The Elf. Not so much the end of the movie. That one's kind of corny, but the beginning is just so funny. That movie's funny. But no, I mean, I love, that's, what kind of movie?
Just whatever, like if you had a choice of a movie to watch over and over again, what would it be? What's your favorite?
I say ridiculous things like, I don't want to be embarrassed for why I love this movie so much. It's just so funny to me. And I'm not talking about The Playhouse. I'm talking about Pee-wee's Great Adventure. But that movie is so funny. Not the part with the dinosaurs and all that, like where the dinosaur's eating his bike. That gets a little weird. But there's like the biker scene and like when he's at the Alamo waiting. And I just love how he's so committed to his character. I think for me that movie's funny. The Three Amigos is really funny.
Yes. With
Steve Martin. I love that. I love The Jerk. That movie's funny. I love comedy movies. I grew up with comedy movies. Not a lot of people would say those are silly and dumb and whatever, but I just think they're funny. Dumb and Dumber was funny, the original one, and that was funny. Elf is funny. Tommy Boy is funny. Like Chris Farley movies are funny to me because he's from Madison, Wisconsin, so it wasn't too far, and so he reminded me of people I went to college with, and it was just funny. And but yeah, I love movies like
Good.
I hope I answered that right.
Oh, there's no wrong answers.
I'm sure no one's ever said those.
No.
Greatest movies of all time. None of mine made the list.
All right, question number 3. Do you have a bit that you love, even though the audience never seems to quite appreciate it?
Yes, now. They appreciated it in the beginning. I think that it's either played out, but my favorite bit to do, and I don't even enjoy doing it as much just because it can hurt to do, but that would be the machine gun question.
Oh, yes.
Like, they used to be like, my dad, when he'd get mad, he's Italian. When Italians get mad, they ask questions like, what's the matter with you? I was just always scared of the machine gun question. Because that's when you knew you were going to get it. Because my dad would be like, hey, what did I tell you to do? And I do the shake thing, So that's fine. I think I sent you a video clip of that.
Yeah.
But that joke doesn't translate on audio because it's a physical joke.
Yeah, it is.
So
it definitely is. Because the body, you're shaking along with it. Looking like you're getting riddled with bullets as you're saying it.
And now that I'm losing weight, I don't have the roll effect. Because, see, it's kind of like a pop and lock move. I radiate from the bottom up, so the more weight I had, it would do a ripple in my face, and my whole face would just be like, blah, 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 blah. It was really...
Well, maybe I should tour with you because I haven't lost much weight, and I could
shave that off of there.
I'll shave the face, and I'll just tour with you to do that one bit, and then collect my $20, and I'll sleep in the back of the bus.
There you go. Well, ain't nobody touring right now. I mean, most of my dates are, we even backed up to 2022 already. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I keep pushing them farther and farther and farther back. It's like, that's what's so funny. Like, that used to happen early in my career. People call up, so what you doing in 2030? Like, they would try to call me to book me 20 years out. What are you trying to get, the 1803 prices? I got them for $1.
Well, that's when you tell them your deposit's non-refundable, and you ask for 90% of your booking fee now.
What, 50 cents? What a great gig. Yeah, the only problem is I'm 90 years old. They're like, hey, you're still alive. You're under contract, sir.
Well, just mount the mic to the walker and just pull the oxygen mask to the side, tell a joke, take a breath.
Yeah, do the machine gun question and have a stroke right then and there.
You do a stroke, they're like, you've got 45 more minutes, get up.
Right. I definitely would be way under my time. I'm supposed to do an hour. I'm like, my name is Jelly. Good night. There's your 50-cent show.
All right, moving on to question number 4. What's a passage that you learn something from each time that you read it?
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. I mean, that whole passage, that one, and the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. I always sing it. And my sister sang that at a gospel church, and it was unbelievable. If I read it, if I sing it, the words are just powerful to me. So those are that's why I love hymns so much, because hymns are, a lot of times they'll take straight up psalm and they'll turn it into a hymn, and it's just beautiful. And I think that's what I've been able to do even with my gift is music had such a, it's funny when I'm talking with comics, because they're like, hey, name a comic that had a big impact on you. I'm like, well, this musician did. Kind of weird.
So if you weren't doing comedy, what would you be doing for a living?
Nothing. So basically you've been doing nothing for, no, I'm just kidding. I mean, that's what's so weird, right? So what I was talking about with Westgate is, so because I was doing shows for Westgate and the tours, tours were slow, but they needed to hire back their people. Mm-hmm. And they offered me a full-time job. This is the first time I've had a regular job, an hourly job, for 15 years. Wow. Think about that one. So it's weird. I'm not used to doing a regular job. So even my bosses, it's a little weird. I'm your boss. I'm like, hey, great job. It seems disrespectful, but it's just I don't care. No, I respect them. I'm just because what I'm doing is it's so when I first started. I think people don't realize that about professional comedy. We travel everywhere, man. I mean, just to give you an idea of what I was doing right before COVID, I did a Christmas tour in December 2019, okay? Mm-hmm. Did 20 shows in 30 days in 9 states in 20 cities. And wow. I'm not talking about, I was in Wisconsin and we decided to do 20 cities in the state. I'm talking about Wisconsin, Minnesota, Florida, Texas. We went Detroit, Oklahoma, Dallas, in 1 month. And the amount of travel that you get to do and get to see, the education, the cultures that you meet, it makes you a more diverse person. That's why it's locking everybody down and, not letting them get out. I mean, your mind becomes closed and small. It's like when I meet kids, I always encourage them, when you grow up, make sure you get out of this city. Because this city is not the world. The world is so much bigger than this little city that you live in. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the ignorance that you have is because you haven't seen anything outside of this. And once you can get out, it will open your mind and it will make you realize you don't have to change to be whatever, but it gives you more opportunity. It gives you more creativeness that you don't have to be so, you know,
Right. So
I think
corporate.
that's why I'm the way I am. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 6. What do you do to unwind and enjoy life?
Sleep. Which is hard to do. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, right now, like just spending time with my kids. I just love it. I love it. I think that's why I brought up to you. I'm coaching my son's Pee Wee soccer team. You know, I didn't have time to do that when I was touring. I mean, so COVID has allowed me to do that. It's allowed me to do the diet too, because I mean, you don't eat good when you're on the road. So being able to do the diet and also being able to coach my sons 3 and 4, and that I've kind of run in. I've got in trouble a little bit. Not, you know, it was funny because everybody was like, "Oh, you're not going to like coaching because the parents." I love my parents. My parents are amazing. And you know why? Because my team has fun. Like we show up and I'm not teaching them like, these are 3 and 4-year-olds. I'm not like, hey, kick with your heel or wrap around. I mean, I'm on the field and the other team is making their 3 and 4-year-olds run laps. They're 3 and 4. You're making them run laps? Like I'm over here doing choo-choo train lineup. where I make my kids get in the choo-choo train line, and I go chicka 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 choo choo chicka 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 choo choo, and I start moving fast. And when they try to go past me, I stop, and they all run in the back of me. and then when they do try to cut in front of me, I get in front of them, and I don't let them pass me. And then I turn around and I go, "You guys are little choo-choo trains. You never let anybody get in front of you." Boom. And so then once we go to play the game, they realize don't let anybody get in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I watch the other team try to line their team up, and they're holding the kids, and they're moving them, and they're pushing them. "Come on, Johnny, we got to line up." And I go, "Choo-choo train, line up." And all the kids I didn't spend hours. I just identified with what they are. They're kids. You know, I'll be honest with you. Excuse my language. It ticks me off when I see people complaining about kids. Like, "Oh, this kid was so loud." He's not a kid.
Exactly.
How dare that baby be a baby? You can't even let the kid enjoy being what he is. And he's the problem? That's what I'm saying. That's all that I'm saying.
There's a huge societal question with that of how we just don't let kids be kids, and we
let them be kids, man. You know, let the older ones be kids too. I'm just kidding. As long as they're responsible. I'm just kidding. And that's what I am. I'm a big kid at heart, you know. So,
all right, final question of the interrogation. If time and money were not an object and there's no global crisis going on, what's one venue you'd most like to play, and who else would you like to be on that show?
Say the beginning again.
If time and money and no global crisis are objects interfering, what's one venue that you'd like to play, and who would you like to have on the show with you?
Dead or alive?
It doesn't matter. Time is no object.
Well, you know, I love history. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd like to probably like to go back in time. You know, I'd probably like to be with like Costello, or, you know, I'd like to do, or I'd like to work with his straight man. I'd like to be the Costello. Like, I think I could actually do, you know, the Costello of that time, because that was a joke at that time that was so fresh to the audience, you know, that they got such a kick out of it. But Costello, it'd be great to, let's just say Costello got sick. I'd like to be the guy who had to fill in for him to do that piece, you know, because it was a fun piece. You know, I don't know. You know, I actually did that when I came to Branson, but just like older stuff. I like the vaudeville stuff. I like, you know, but stand up. I mean, I've done a lot of the big arenas, and I've done big theaters. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I probably want to go back in time and just work with some of the guys that, you know, because, you know, theaters, this thing could really do away with theaters. I mean, the overhead that it costs to keep the theater open is ridiculous, you know? Yeah. I kind of feel like this is a great reset in the sense that just like the tape, the 8-track, and the tape, the CD, the DVD, I kind of feel like that's what's kind of happening with live entertainment venues. Like, it's almost like they're trying to get rid of the old relics, you know? And so for me, it would have been better to perform when it was appreciated. Because
Right.
I love when I go to them old theaters. I mean, the detail and just the beauty of those places are some of the most gorgeous stages, So,
Yeah.
yeah. Because everybody knows that a live show is so much better than this. I'm not saying your interview. I'm just saying the Zoom and the yard stream and you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. My improv team, we did about 4 months worth of virtual shows, and it was literally, and I use this analogy tongue in cheek, it was like craving Mexican, but all we could eat was Taco Bell.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you scratch the itch a little bit, but it's not nearly as the same as the authentic in person.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd have to think about that question. I didn't have anything lined up to answer that, but that's a unique question. Like I haven't had that question asked to me, so that's a deep one. I know I have a better answer than that, but that's the best I could do on the spot.
No problem. So the final question I ask all my guests is, for somebody that's listening that's looking for a way to use their gifts, talents, and passions to glorify God, whether it's comedy or just in general, what would your wise counsel be?
Don't take no for an answer. You're going to get that. And what was I reading today? I don't know who said it. I think it was one of the Beatles that said it. It said every kid's an artist until they're told they're not.
Ooh.
I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I believe in that. I believe that's what I was talking about. I don't believe in tearing people down. I believe in building people up.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've discovered being a performer is I've run into these types of people where it's like, be good, just don't be better than me.
Yeah.
And once you become better than that person, they act like my soccer team. They're a choo-choo train, and they let me get in front of them. And so it's the same thing I tell my team: is knock the choo-choo train out the way. Don't knock him out of the way. We'll get a red card for that. But try to get up in front of the choo-choo train and stop it, and take the ball out of his choo-choo train legs.
Yeah.
Take it this way and shoot and score. I mean, the thing is, because we're doing entertainment, people think it looks easy. Mm-hmm. They think it's fun. But the reality is it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of dedication. And you probably won't be around if you're soft in the sense of, oh no, someone didn't like me. I mean, we bomb on stage, and it hurts. And you almost have to go home and remember what that feels like. Mm-hmm. So that and if it does these two things, then you're cut out for it. If it makes you go, I'll never get up there again, well, then that wasn't for you. But if it makes it, but if you're a crazy person like myself who says, you know what, I think I can do it again, then you are ready, my friend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Joey, it's been a blast, man. I really appreciate you coming on. And we didn't mention it at all, but you're about to kick off a tour in Florida.
Yes.
In January 2020. Oh my gosh, I said the bad one. 2021.
2021, right.
Yes. We're not backdating, but you're going to do a tour in Florida, enjoying the sunshine. What's the first date in Florida that you guys are opening up?
It's going to be crazy in the sense that, because we don't know. We just went through the most ridiculous election ever. Now we have a new coach, right? And so we don't know what plays he's going to do. And I was supposed to go to Saigon, and I was supposed to do a USO tour and perform in Okinawa, in South Korea, and Seoul. And then when Trump first got elected, they thought they were going to go to war with Lil Kim. I call him Lil Kim. I don't know. And then they canceled that tour because the military was like, no, can't go. So, I'm planning to go to Florida as long as, the world can act appropriate and stop canceling all my gigs. But it's crazy. It looks like I'll be there in the first week of February. But I'm just going to be down there, Tampa, Orlando. I'm going to be posting where I'm going to be. Befriend me on Facebook. I haven't gone to the other sites yet, so I'm still on there. You can like me or just check the pages out. I'll be posting those dates when they come. You can also. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube, and then please download the app, the Dry Bar app. If you don't have it, it's awesome to have that big library of clean comedy. and check out my special and give me a heart. That helps me a lot. So,
Yeah.
and like he said, the tip thing, that wasn't my idea. He said it. Do the tip thing.
So if you're not in Florida and you can't make it out to any of the shows that are tentatively scheduled because of we don't know what the world's going to do,
Right.
so you can support them by tipping through Dry Bar or buying DVD.
Also have a PayPal and a pay app. I'll get you that information. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I mean, anybody that
I
can
also
help.
take cash. Money orders if you need them.
He's related to Benjamin Franklin, who'd love a lot of those images of his uncle.
I take Bitcoin, but I don't know what that is. I wouldn't know how to redeem it. I'd go to Chuck E. Cheese. Can I cash this Bitcoin in? For tickets?
You get a now and later for Bitcoin.
Sitting in there in the arcade. It's not working. This token is too big for the slot. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's awesome, man. Well, I know that you got family to take care of, and
Down! I'm sorry, what were you saying?
But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on, and we're praying for you and all the great Christian comics out there that number one need to be able to provide for their families, but also praying that God will open doors that you can use your gifts to bring some light in a world that seems like it's getting really, really dark.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't like to type because I don't like to leave a paper trail, and I don't know if like the Italian genes in me. I mean, I was talking to my wife the other day like this. Let's go out in the desert and have this conversation. I think they're listening. I think Google's listening. Siri is definitely listening to this conversation. So no. Well, man, thank you, and inbox me, send me. Message me on Messenger, send me a message somehow, send Dave a message, he'll forward it to me, and let's see how we can have a fun night and bring some joy because there's been so much darkness.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and this has been a really fun episode. It's gonna be fun.
Good. Please edit it.
Yeah.